When you think back on your playing days with the Lakers, what jumps out to you? What sort of feelings of nostalgia do you get?
Well, I think about me being a child, growing up being a huge Laker fan, and moving on to college and having a poster of Magic Johnson in my bedroom. And before, if we had a game on a Monday, so Sunday night, I was giving Magic a high five before I went to bed. And so it was like to get that luck, right? And then to have the opportunity to play for such a historic franchise and not just be a part, but bring championships back to the organization. It gives me goosebumps. I'm not even like when I see that shot I made in 2000, it still gives me goosebumps to this day. It's just it's just think about that. You grow up being a huge Laker fan. You get to play for the Lakers. You win championships with the Lakers. It's a dream come true.
I love that you brought up the shot. I didn't even have to ask you about it. We're like 30 seconds into the interview, and you're like, well, when I hit that shot. So let's talk about that shot, Rob. When you remember that moment in time, I mean, that was iconic in Laker history, iconic in NBA history. What do you remember from that moment and the moments leading up to it and after it?
I just remember us playing good basketball. And I remember us trying to win another title, go back to back. And for us to have that opportunity, because you think about it, I look around the league when I played, and even now there's so many guys that are great players. They're not even put in a position to even go to a championship, even be in the playoffs. So to be a part of a Laker team with Shaq, and Kobe, and Fish, and B. Shaw and Rick and those guys, and Ron Harper, and play for Phil. Think about it. Phil Jackson, one of the greatest coaches ever, and them do something iconic like that in a moment as big as that in the playoffs in a crucial game. We're the series is 2-1 in Sacramento's favor. I hit that shot. We tied a game, and I never like to talk about legacy because I'm really weird about that, and that's another conversation we have for another day. But I feel like when you do something like this, it cements your legacy in the NBA and with the Laker fans, and to do it in Staples Center on home court is big because I've made a lot of big shots in my career, but only like 2 have been at home. So that was very special. And I mean, every time I see that image or the clip of me making that shot, I still get goosebumps. I still smile. And I still think about the little skinny kid from Andalusia, Alabama, playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. When you talk about being a part of the Laker organization, I think about when I had the opportunity to get drafted by the Lakers. They brought me out on a recruiting visit, and I came, and they took me to this old gym. They said, well, we're going to do something different with you today. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And we're going to make you play one-on-one with someone, and then watch Magic Johnson. I'm like this. And it was like one of my most memorable moments ever. You think about it. Here's this guy I used to give high fives to. He didn't even know this at this moment. So I used to give him high fives. In walks Magic Johnson, and we're playing one-on-one. And you know how you have that moment where you like giving it your all. I'm going like 1,000 miles per hour, and Magic's playing at his nice little slow pace and just waxed me. And because he used my emotion and my energy against me. And that's the moment when I realized it ain't always about speed. It ain't always about talent. It's all about smarts. And he just flat out outsmarted me. I was faster than him. He was stronger than me, but I was quicker than him, but he just outsmarted me little by little. And that was when, people always have those aha moments that make you kind of realize, oh, this is what I need to do. And I think my aha moment sort of came, one of the moments, I had like 4 or 5, came before I even got in the league to let you know it ain't about speed, it ain't about talent, it's about smarts.
Did Magic say anything to you after that little scrimmage?
He just said, young fella, you got some skills. Keep working hard. And hopefully he kept it short and sweet because he was in and out. He said, hopefully you'll be a part of the organization one day. And I was like, thank you, sir. I'm a huge fan. I wanted to be like you growing up, and thank you for this opportunity.
So that was on your before the draft.
That was before the draft.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't make it to that slot. I got drafted before the Lakers drafted. They actually drafted Doug Christie with that pick.
Oh, those are things you never forget, right?
Yes, yes, yes. But I went before Doug. I just remember because Doug Christie was, people just think about Doug Christie, I think, as a Sacramento King, him and Rick getting into it. But he started his career as a Laker and he just had to move on from there. But it's a lot of Laker history, from a lot around the league. Think about it. Doug Christie and Vlade both started out with the Lakers and became, went to the rival team.
When you joined the Lakers, what do you remember about that phone call or that meeting, or how did that happen?
It, it was so fantastic for me because I had just had that little incident with Danny Ainge. And then Cedric Sabathia just had his little flight away from the team. And so the cosmic forces brought us together where we swapped positions. And I remember Danny Ainge calling me, was like saying, we traded you. And I was like, yes!
Before he said to the Lakers?
Yeah, before he said to the Lakers, I just wanted out of there. I didn't want to be there in the first place. And he's like, well, I'm probably putting you in the opportunity to win another championship. And I'm like, okay, I don't even care where I'm going because, it was last year my contract. So he said, I'm sending you to the Lakers. I'm like, my eyes got so big. So think about this. I called one of my buddies up. He lived in LA. He flew in from LA to Phoenix. We packed one car up. I packed the other car up and we left. I think I got traded that night and I was in LA the next day. I packed my house up just like that and was gone. So wow. That's how bad I wanted out of Phoenix and how bad I really wanted to get to the Lakers.
When you look back on your career, Rob, and obviously there's just so many memorable moments, what jumps out to you the most? What do you miss the most about playing too?
For me, it's always those moments after practice where we sitting in the locker rooms and we just shooting sorry, we just talking. That's what you do. You just sit around and you talk and we icing down and we just talking about what happened in practice, what we saw on TV, what we watching on TV.
Yeah.
Just fun things like that. Because that's where you become a team. That's where the camaraderie kicks in. That's where you get to know each other. You come in and guys talking about, man, my son came home and did this, or my daughter came home, did that. And I've been there, done that. Because, the younger guys got little kids, the older guys got older kids. And you talk about things like that. And, you talk about what's happening in the league and talk about who got dunked on. And we just had a good time. I remember so many days Shaq would be in there trying to, break dance, and we'd be laughing. And
break dance?
Yeah, he used to break dance in the locker room. So
there's enough room for him to do that.
Yeah, we just had so much fun.
Yeah.
That's what, because in practice, you practice, you're trying to get better, you're trying to listen to the coaches. But after practice, and you getting your therapy and you ice it down, that's when you really talk about things and you come closer as a team.
When you look back on those days and just, shooting the breeze in the locker room after games and after practice, who was the best storyteller?
I think B. Shaw was the best storyteller. Yeah, because, we had two guys that really liked to talk, B. Shaw and Fish. Fish liked to talk more about basketball stuff. B. Shaw liked to tell stories. So those two guys would get together and B. Shaw would tell stories about being in Boston, playing for the Lakers and all the guys that he, think about being. He was around Larry Bird. None of us got a chance to play against Larry Bird. For me, that was one of the guys that I wanted to rate myself against, because you always want to play those top tier guys and see if you belong or what you can steal from those guys or what you need to work on to get better. And Larry Bird never played when I got in the league. I got a chance, Magic retired, but then came back. I got a chance to play against him in a real situation, not in the practice situation. So you get to go those stories, and you want to learn. That was one thing about Kobe. Kobe was inquisitive about players. He wanted to know, what did they do to, get a certain move. He would talk to me about Dream's footwork. And so I would just listen to B. Shaw tell the stories about Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, because you think about it, I know it's the Lakers' rival, but they have some great players on that team, and you can learn from them.
All right, so Kobe was the most studious,
yes,
perhaps.
Probably, yeah, he definitely was. He was always asking questions, And the crazy thing about Kobe is like he would ask questions and then he'd go out and try to, add it to his game. But we used to mess with him too. We would tell him like, oh, dude, you can't score with your left hand. You can't do that. So he would literally go like 2 or 3 practices only shooting with his left hand just to prove us that he could do it. So we would just mess with him and play with him and stuff like that just to get him because he was such a competitor. So he wanted to always prove you wrong or prove himself right.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say on those teams, those Laker teams, Shaq probably had the most playful personality.
Oh, no doubt. Yes, yeah. He was the character for all the characters. Moments like with him messing with your food, pouring out your drinks.
What do you mean messing with your food?
Well, we used to, back before the practice facility, we used to have a guy upstairs used to make us food. So you might order a cheesesteak, and then you come back and it would be no cheesesteak was no steak in your sandwich. He would pour it all out, or, and wrap it back up all neat, and you open it up, you're like, dude, really? I really wanted this, man. So, just little things like that. And sometimes you don't even know it because you grab it and you leave and you get home, you just go, oh man, it wasn't nobody but Shaq. And there's some other things, that he used to do that was kind of I don't really want to say. Like,
it was
let's say one day we had practice, the next thing we had a streaker.
Who was the player or teammate that would tell you when someone was messing up, keep everybody in line? Was that Kobe?
No, that was probably me and Rick.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because Kobe was that guy doing his thing, and I think myself, Rick, and B. Shaw would always go to the big dogs, like, yo, Shaq, you need to do this. Kobe, you need to do that. And we were that older. Think about it. It sounds weird, but we were the older guys on the team at the time. Even though Shaq and I came out in the same class, I had a little bit. I was a year older than him. I had, won 2 championships, so I had, more playoff experience than him. So we would just talk to those guys. And the thing that was great about those guys, they were receptive to everything. As long as you ain't yelling at them, just like nobody likes to be yelled at. You just pull them to the side, like, yo, man, we really need you to get other guys involved. We really need you to play better defense. We really need you to rebound more. And, I think Shaq used to always say, what the heck do you want me to do? I can't score all the points and score all and get all the rebounds. I said, you make all the money? Yes, you can. So, and he started laughing about that. So we just had a good rapport with each other, and that's how it was. That's the only way you're going to survive in this league. You like one another when you're on a team spending that much time together.
We just saw, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers celebrating their Super Bowl win. And we saw a different version of Tom Brady than we're used to as he was celebrating in that boat parade. When you look back on the championships with the Lakers, was there anyone that had their drunk Tom Brady moment?
Well, to be honest, I was probably too hungover to see it. I was just saw a clip the other day with Fish and Ty Lue. And my wife was like, did you have on sunglasses? I said, you don't wear sunglasses. I said, because I had a hangover. That's why I had on sunglasses. Because that's something I never do. I never wear sunglasses unless it's really bright. All right, I got a hangover. So I think only guys I probably say had a hangover, probably me, Rick, and B. Shaw. Because we didn't, the craziest thing, we didn't have drinkers on our team. Really? And it was, you never had to really worry about anybody coming to practice smelling like liquor. I've been on some teams where you had to worry about that, but we were just a good, solid team. We didn't have those issues. But when it came time to party after, we won a championship, I think you had to involve me and Rick on that one.
So now you are a broadcaster for the Lakers network at Spectrum. What is that like for you? Do you prepare for games in a similar way that you would when you were a player?
No, I don't take a pregame nap. I don't eat a pregame meal. For me, it's so weird and that I literally have to sit down and study games more. What I mean by that is you have to really pay attention to each and every player. When I was a player, I only worried about the guys I had to play against and certain situations on the court for me that I'll be involved in, getting ready for a last minute shot or, making an extra pass, things of that nature. But now you got to know stats. You got to know, what a guy likes to do for his pregame, fashion. It's all these things, the social media aspect of it. It's so many things now that come into play that we didn't even have to think about, even worried about. I'm like, fashion, yeah, just throw on a suit and come to the game. Social media, what's social media? Each pregame, come to practice. Come to work out and play, and you go from there. So it's a different game, and it's so weird to have to talk about guys' fashion in the sense that we do, as being part of the media.
I mean, fashion's not a new thing, though. I'm sure there was one of your teammates that really was into fashion and getting decked out for the games. No. Really?
No. If you look back,
okay,
Shaq,
who had the worst fashion?
Probably Devin George. Devin George and Ty Lue, those two guys were new, and they were part of that hip hop generation that came in. So, they had the braids, they had, they were trying to dress like Allen Iverson, they had the baggy clothes. I don't think I ever saw Devin George in the suit. I don't think I ever did. I saw Ty in the suit because, he's coaching now for the Clippers, but it was always the walkers. Back then we called them the walkers. It was a little two-piece. So I never saw him in the suit, but I think, sometimes Kobe would come dressed up, as it was weird because Kobe went through those stages where he dressed up because you had to. Then he went through the hip hop. Then he became business-like where he was wearing the suits. Because you remember in the finals, he was wearing all the different like championship jerseys and stuff like that. And I just always remember when I came to the league, we flew commercial. So we always had to wear suits. And I just, wore suits all the time because that's just the way I was taught.
Do you think that you would have had a better time playing in today's NBA versus, why?
Yes. Jamie, you look at my body. My body was built for this. It was built for this league now. Skinny guy, stretch four, shooting threes. With Phil, if you missed two in a row, you couldn't shoot another. He'll take you out of the game. So you had to pass it. He said, unless you like wide open, you cannot shoot it. So my game was built for the way they play now, up and down. Everybody said, well, you spot up three. Yes, yeah, but you didn't really see what I could do because Shaq was in the way on the post. Kobe had the ball on the wing. I had to fit in where you get in, right? You were that piece where you spot up. They needed a spot up shooter, and that's what I was. But and I said, tell people, go back and look at my first 4 years with Houston, what I used to do. I used to J people up, get up and down the court, dunk on people. Now it's like, oh, you can hit three, spot up. So if Robert was in this day and age, I'll be a nice little player. I'll be another Kyle Kuzma type.
I would say you had a nice career as it was. Is there a certain dunk that you remember that you were like, yes?
Oh my goodness! Oh,
like so many.
It's a couple, man.
Yeah.
I remember my first dunk ever in the NBA was in my first game. It was on a fast break when I was with Houston in '92 in Japan. My first official NBA game was played in Japan.
Oh.
And we were coming out on a break, and Derek McKee, who went to Alabama before I got there, and he used to come back, so I was kind of familiar with his game. So I got a steal and went down, and I got a two-hand dunk. And I remember that was my first 2 points ever, and it was a dunk. So I remember that. And I don't really talk about it much, but yeah, my first 2 points ever in the NBA was a dunk that I stole from Derek McKee.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that dunk I remember, of course, the dunk. I had a bunch of dunks. When I was younger, that's all I did was dunk. And the last dunk that I can remember happened in 2005 when I was with the Spurs and me dunking on Rip Hamilton in the finals. So that was a good one. But I also remember one of my favorite dunks was when I was with the Lakers in the Forum. It's one of those plays where you lay it up and you're running back like, and you double back. You double back and you get the steal. And I think it was playing with Charlotte, and Alonzo Mourning had inbounded, but I doubled back and stole it, and he tried to jump wide, and I dunked on him. And that was like one of those moments where I said, I never thought this move would work. You're gonna run back down the court and you double back and then you intercept it and you dunk and it worked. So it's a lot of moments like that you remember that are because you see other people do it. He says, I'm gonna try that. Will it work? And then it actually worked. You're like, wow, it worked. So I remember that because I think that was one of the last times I played in the Forum when I got that dunk.
When you look at the NBA today, not necessarily the Lakers, but just in general, is there a player or a couple players that remind you of yourself?
Actually, Kyle Kuzma is one, Rudy Gay is another, and Green is with Brooklyn now. It reminds me, because those guys are just steady guys, energy guys, tall guys who they don't have plays ran for them. But then you look at the stat sheet, it's like, oh, how do you get 10 points? Oh, how do you get 10 rebounds? And they just go out and have fun playing basketball, and they take what's given to them. And you can look around the league and KD, he's a guy that's going to demand the rock. LeBron demands the rock. But I really appreciate the guys who are able to put up numbers and don't have any plays running, because that's the hardest thing to do. And people who don't play basketball, they don't really understand. If you don't have any plays ran for you, and if you're averaging 10, 11, 12 points, that means it's all hustle and it's all you get putting in work.
When your time, playing for Phil, any coachable moments from him, life lessons?
Phil was one of those guys, was like an anomaly. I'm gonna say something, you're not gonna believe me, but Phil and I had one conversation the entire time I was there.
Wow.
When I say conversation, outside of basketball. I was in the locker room and I was in the treatment room getting treatment, a training room, and he comes in because his back was hurting, and he looks at me. He says, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Good." He says, "How you feeling?" "Good." "So what happened with you and Danny Ainge?" And that was the only conversation he and I have ever had. We'll talk basketball like in the gym and stuff and talk like that, like, oh, we're going to do this, but we never had a one-on-one conversation. That sounds weird, right? But, the thing is, I think he respected me and I respected him, because when we first started out in this relationship, Ron Harper was like, oh, you're going to have it hard. I'm like, why you say that? Because he's already going to make you his whipping boy. And I don't mean that in a racist way. That's just a term we use, meaning that he's going to be on you because he can see the potential in you, what you can do for this team. So he's going to be on you and, mad at you about the little things. And he's never going to give you any credit for anything. He says he's just going to try to toughen you up. And I remember one time in practice, always says, Rob, I'm always looking at players to see if they did anything today to make me go, you didn't do a damn thing today to make me go, I'm like, I said, you didn't do one either. And so I walked out. So, it was just one of those things where, he will always give you a little nudge about stuff. And, I always respect it. I remember one time he asked me, how do you feel about bringing the basketball? I said, dude, I'm not Scotty. Don't try to make me Scotty because I hate dribbling the basketball. He says, well, you're going to do it in case we need it. And I was so uncomfortable bringing the ball up a couple of games. I think I got it stole from me like 3 times. And I looked at him, I said, I told you I don't like handling the basketball. And so he said, but he was trying to get me to really work on my game and be a Scottie Pippen type player because it would have made us better as a team. But me and my stubbornness said, no, let me just go spot up in the corner. Let me cut, because, people dribbling the basketball takes too much energy out of it. So he was a great coach. And when you look back on it, we weren't friends, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because we had a professional relationship. He knew exactly how he could push me. He knew exactly what I could do to help benefit the team. And sometimes that's all you need. And I think a lot of times people put too much onus on, well, you got to have a relationship with your coach. No, you don't. You don't have to. You have to, if you know your role, and if you have conversation, an open book conversation, and you just talk about it, who says I got to call you up and go smoke a cigar with you or have dinner with you? That's not the case.
What was it like to go from playing at the Forum to switching over and playing at Staples Center?
When you're in an iconic stadium like the Forum, you think about all the stars and the Magic, Worthy, the Skyhook, Showtime Lakers. It's like, wow, you leave in the Forum, and of course, the Lakers are such a big brand, and they needed more space. And to go from the Forum and then lose it like we lost to the San Antonio Spurs, think about it. I hate to say this, but the last game played, official game played by the Lakers in the Forum was a loss to the San Antonio Spurs, who went on to win the NBA championship that year. So that's kind of a cushion right there in itself. But to be able to go from the Forum to Staples Center was a wonderful thing, because you go from this small venue to this huge venue, but there was a lot of luck in that. You know, the Forum was always a lucky establishment. But think about it. The first year in Staples, we brought a championship back to Los Angeles. So that move was bad and great, because it didn't want to leave the Forum because there's so much history there. But you move into a new building because you had to. And to win a championship in the new building the first year with a new coach was everything. It was so many things that made it such a great time. And if you look at that first year in Staples, we win a championship. We do one of the greatest comebacks in the history of the playoffs. We have one of the greatest coaches. We have the greatest duo ever to play the game. And it was iconic.